Detroit, a place where all people, races, ethnicities, and cultures come together as one community. Here, as Generation of Promise, we look towards a better tomorrow, a place where all people can be here as one, accepted, loved, and cherished. This is our first project as we move forward on immigration justice, seeking change in the city of Detroit as we look forward to a better tomorrow. Today, we will interview several great community organizers and volunteer leaders to help us understand what we can do to make our future brighter and better for all people. Thank you, and please enjoy.
What would be the ideal conditions for a sanctuary city?
A sanctuary city for me is a place that it's safe for immigrants to not feel any fear of deportation. Not only that, but also making sure that they have the resources that they need, that things are in Spanish, that things are accessible, that they don't question you in your immigration status. There are many places that have a lot of ICE traffic, a lot of ICE officers. So for me, a sanctuary city is one that outwardly says we will not allow ICE in our cities. We will not question you for your documentation status. That's what it means to me. It's really making sure that the systems that we have in that city, in that place, support undocumented families and people in order for them to stay there without having to fear deportation.
That a sanctuary city is a city that has legal protections in place to support undocumented people and all sorts of migrants in participating meaningfully in the city government and city institutions and social welfare programs. I imagine a sanctuary city would be doing everything it could to ensure that migrant communities can come here and can thrive and be successful. Whether that be allowing people to have licenses, allowing people to get work, and supporting governmentally. So I think sanctuary city implies government policy. One instance I think I mentioned earlier was a program that used to exist called 287G, which is an ICE program, and that was like getting immigrations and customs enforcement, ICE, to participate with local police agencies, and they'd receive resources for essentially sending people they pull over to ICE. So certainly a sanctuary city would not have programs like that, would not be arresting people and sending them to ICE, would not be asking immigrants for their paperwork, and they wouldn't be giving them tickets. They were trying to find ways that undocumented immigrants could get licenses and drive legally, because it's Detroit. You need a car. It's impossible to drive without a car. So if it's illegal, if you can't get a license or can't get a way to drive for undocumented people, it just puts them in a precarious situation. So I think public policy addressing all of these, the ways that in which immigrants and particularly undocumented people are marginalized from full incorporation to feeling safe and secure.
With so many aspects, I could go off all day on what my ideal sanctuary city would be, but I'll first start with seizing all, whether it be a cooperation operations between local law enforcement and ICE. I think to better relations with the community and for the community to actually, report crimes or want to be involved with local law enforcement, which they are there to perform that service. It's a disservice to the community when they fear and know that local law enforcement agencies have worked with ICE officers or, may call ICE sometimes. So that is one aspect that I see as would be key for a sanctuary city, allowing immigrants to have access to resources in the city that they live in or are resident in, right? So having access to more support with healthcare, employment opportunities, home ownership, and on top of that as well, if there are jails in that city, that they do not hold people for longer than they need to, for ICE to come pick them up and then process them through a deportation and removal proceeding.
My name is Antonio Cosme. I'm an Indigenous descended organizer, educator, gardener. I'm also a beekeeper based in Southwest Detroit, which is a very strong migrant community. And I work with the National Wildlife Federation for my day job. And I run a program called the Detroit Leadership and Environmental Education Program, where my job is getting young people outdoors and connecting them with nature and getting them to value nature and wildlife and advocate for protecting those spaces.
Hi, my name is Veronica Beltran. I am the legal director of the Southwest Detroit Immigrant and Refugee Center. We are a nonprofit organization that provides legal services to the communities of Pontiac, Southwest Detroit, and the east side of Detroit.
I'm a community organizer. I have a background in social work. I'm currently the policy and research director at We the People Michigan. After work, I'm running for office, and that's a fun thing to do. I'm running for city council. But I do all of this work because it's all very personal to me.
So currently, to my knowledge, and I don't think that there is a current written policy that would stop a deportation of a resident of the city of Detroit. Typically, when one is taken by ICE, they are then put in a removal proceeding where they go in front of a judge, and in most cases people try to find a lawyer to represent them in these court proceedings to see if there's a way that they can stay and not be deported. The city itself does not have a policy or resources that support individuals in those situations. People that are in the city, though, like federal representatives, like congresspeople and senators, they can have some form of influence to, maybe not totally take away a deportation order, but halting one if one of their constituents is facing deportation or removal. So that's the only thing that could be possible, but as far as a written policy within the city of Detroit, there is not.
Do you think Detroit becoming a sanctuary city would solve the problems immigrants are facing?
I don't think it'll solve the problems that immigrants are facing. I think that it'll definitely support the issues that immigrants are facing. I think that unfortunately the issues that we have are structural from the federal sense. Like, it's not just state, or it's not just local. I think that it'll really support. I think that it might support solving some of the problems, but I don't want to say that one thing is going to just solve everything and change everything, because as soon as an immigrant might leave one sanctuary city to visit somebody else, that doesn't solve their problem of mobility, of feeling free to visit whoever they would like in the state of Michigan, if only one sanctuary city is safe and the other one isn't. That to me means that I'm essentially still stuck in a place that I can't leave. And that's not necessarily like giving me the freedom to live my life. And for me, I believe that we should all be able to live our lives with full dignity. So a sanctuary city to me is a solution. It is not the solution that will eliminate all of our issues that undocumented immigrants are dealing with.
How do you think like these everyday citizens should go about supporting immigrants?
So as I mentioned, getting to know folks, getting to know neighbors, residents that you may have in your community, reaching out to organizations that work with undocumented folks, that work with Latinx communities. So reaching out to DHDC, Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation, reaching out to grassroots organizations that are working on immigrant issues, like the Drive Michigan Forward Coalition, that's working on the driver's licenses campaign.
I think one way where you can unite people that may see themselves as different or not relating to someone is, informing and educating them that we actually share more than you think. We are all people, we're all humans, we all, bleed the same. We all have families, we care about our families. So educating people who are not immigrants on issues as to, why people leave, and having them realize, wouldn't you do the same for your family if you were in that situation? And just sharing common ground that a lot of times as people, we have similar struggles, we have similar issues and problems, and we're actually stronger by uniting and coming together as one, facing, the common enemy or the common factor or powers that be that cause issues for people. And that by working together, uniting, bringing our issues together is a stronger force and is helpful for everyone at the end of the day, no matter where you come from, no matter what your status is. And it's just the right thing to do because we're all people. We should welcome our neighbors and be welcoming to others. Treat others as how you would want to be treated, right? So it's not just a literal way to bring people together, but it's a moral and issue as well.
So how can people who might have concern when they do see these things on social media, how can they take that concern and kind of put it into action?
Yeah, I think talking to your neighbors, talking to your communities, talking to your families, hosting people over your house and talking about immigrants, talking about history, talking about refugee flows, talking about geopolitical activities and things that are happening in the world.
In our project on immigration justice in Detroit, we set out to learn a few things. What does it mean to be a sanctuary city or a safe city? Is Detroit considered a sanctuary city? And if it isn't, how do we become one? So we turned to some community members and organizers, and what we learned sort of surprised us. We learned that these terms are really just labels, and they can be used to describe any place that has chosen to, in some way, limit its cooperation with ICE. So really there is no one true definition of this concept. It means different things in different places and to different people. And while limiting cooperation between local law enforcement and ICE is important, and it truly is, after talking with Gabby, Antonio, and Veronica, we realized that there are so many other ways we can support our immigrant communities. For example, undocumented immigrants should have access to social welfare programs and should be able to get driver's licenses. People should be able to go to school without the fear of putting their family in danger. So instead of asking whether Detroit is considered a sanctuary city, it is maybe more important to ask, how can we better support immigrant communities in Detroit? And of course, there are a lot of ways to answer this question.